going to kick off our first Q&A session about a topic that I'm particularly excited about because it's on how to make it to executive level. And you know, women are still very, very rare on executive level. So today with me, I have two extraordinary women. And I'd like to briefly introduce first Georgiana Lazar, who is member of the UniCredit Bank Austria Executive Committee and Head of Human Capital. She recently relocated to Austria after being headquartered in London, where she was responsible for HR of UniCredit UK and 8 other global markets. She graduated from LSE and has been with UniCredit for the past 12 years. And I know for a fact that she's really committed to building diversity and inclusion programs and has been initiating a lot of support for women also in the corporate world. And we're also joined by 𝗵𝗲𝗟𝗶, who is originally from the US, moved to Europe, and worked herself up to executive level while raising 5 incredible daughters. She is an investor, a serial entrepreneur, and is absolutely 100% committed to empowering and mentoring women. And I can speak from experience because Linda has been one of my personal mentors over the past 5 years. And I honestly would not be where I am today without you, Linda. So very excited to kick off the conversations with these two women. So I'll let you introduce yourselves quickly for the audience, and then we'll just hop in directly to the Q&A session. Linda, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure.
Let us know who you are.
First of all, welcome world. This is amazing that so many people are joining us today. I am so excited because it's by these platforms that you guys are doing at Female Factor. It's the only way we will get a voice and we can have a loud voice together. I'm humbled to be your mentor, but I love this life journey, and you're one of the reasons why I'm so passionate and excited. So shortly, briefly about myself. Yes, it's true. I do have 5 kids. Yes, it's true. Different fathers. Yes, it's true. Different companies I've chaired, sat on boards. And yes, it's true. I came to Austria in 1994, and everybody told me I should stay home and take care of the kids. Well, that wasn't going to happen as a Californian. Today, my husband and I have a successful business. We have actually a couple of businesses in renewable energy. And I am extremely passionate right now with what I'm doing at Airport City for Vienna Airport, which is bringing international companies, tech hubs from all over the world into Vienna to have a landing platform to go into Europe. On top of that, what I'm really excited about is really working with women, not only in tech, but in finance, in the creative industries, because I think it's really important because we as women have a lot of intellectual capital, and I'm so honored to be sitting with you because what you're doing is also amazing, and promoting intellectual capital, because there aren't too many of us women that really aren't afraid to say, excuse me, I don't agree. And so I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to you, and then anybody can ask me questions. I'm looking forward to it and sharing some of my experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the amazing intro. It's always great to hear your story because it's quite impressive. Georgiana, I know your story is also quite impressive. You're originally from Romania, right?
That is true. Thanks God I wasn't the first to speak, because I wouldn't have made it so exciting and entertaining. No. You really set a fantastic scene. Thank you both. I feel very honored to be here, and it's really exciting that we can just be together and answer questions and learn, because I will take this opportunity to really further also my understanding of what the needs are and the experiences, and also I'm really happy to make new acquaintances, especially as I'm new to Vienna. So yes, I'm originally Romanian. I graduated law. I started to work for UniCredit, as you have very well said, 12 years ago, back in Bucharest. After a couple of years, I applied on the intranet, and I was very lucky to be offered an interview. having a few qualifications that I have obtained myself on my spare time and on my own finances in the UK helped give me that inner foot to be considered for the interview. And I have relocated with my family to London 10 years ago, where I have been performing roles of increasing responsibility, always within the human capital function. I am very, very privileged to work in human capital because this always allowed me to use my legal background and my passion for people. I have done 4 years of sales management, and I realized that what I was enjoying most was to find the right people, to help them perform, to coach them, and to drive the team forward. And then I thought, oh, this could be the actual department. There's an area that should be doing this. So I could be, you know, my profile would be best suited there. And I've never stopped. In London, I have learned a new life, a new culture, a new organization, all from scratch. My last 2 roles, as you have said, were to cover the global markets population within Western Europe, as well as US and Hong Kong, which was a great learning experience. I was also heading the human capital for the UK branch, which was a very interesting dynamic because we were very small for UniCredit, but in the biggest financial market of Europe. So that was a really exciting learning opportunity for me. I was very privileged to be offered the possibility to interview for the role that I'm performing now and to have been offered that at the end of last year. I moved with my husband and my son here. We started, my son started school on 3rd of February and I started work in the new job on the same day. And luckily, we managed to relocate just before the lockdown. So at least we were all together and there was no weird commuting status of us being separated. I'm happy to be here today and answer questions and, as said already, learn from all of you.
Great, thank you so much. You know, what you both have in common is that you're passionate about people, especially passionate about women moving forward. For someone who would like to, you know, be in a similar role in the future, what would you say is your #1 advice on getting there? I mean, I think you both have a legal background. You actually studied law. So can you make it with any other type of, you know?
I think what I think is very important, and I really want to stress this, especially with the current situation with COVID, I think that in order to begin to thinking about advancing in your career or in your area, you need to be flexible, you need to be creative, you need to be structured, and most importantly, you've got to have a little bit of not having a fear. You got to be willing to take a little bit of a risk in yourself and have the confidence at least to try. And the attitude that I've always had, which has done me well, especially in Austria, not speaking the language when I first arrived, was I just tried. And I thought, if I don't make it, then I try something else. But until I completely failed, my attitude was every time it didn't work out, I would readjust the concept. So I think don't be afraid. Be flexible, be positive, and go and knock on doors and have people answer questions, which is why it's important to me about mentoring, because without that, you won't know. And never assume. And be a team player. I think that's really important. Transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency. And what you also mentioned with overcoming your fears and doubts, that's something we often hear from our community, that, you know, it's tough for us. You sometimes doubt if it's the right direction and if you have enough skills and the confidence in yourself to move forward. So what would be your advice on that?
It's really funny because part of mentoring is we've had a lot of conversations I've had. I think it is, if you think about, so my background is I am a Latina, so I have certain cultural beliefs that have been ingrained in me that a woman should focus on family. Career is a nice to have, but you got to focus on family. My being a rebel, I wanted to have both, and I wanted to be successful at both. So I have to tell you, fear, oh yes, I was scared many times. And many times even to speak the German language. I never took a German course, but I just went for it. I just said, you know what, I want it. I had a vision. I researched it. I developed a strategy how to get to that vision. And sometimes, let me tell you, that door slammed in my face before I even could put my foot in between the crack. But then I learned from that situation, and then I readjusted the process, and then I went back at it. I think persistence and patience and the vision is key in order to be successful in anything that you do, whether, and that holds true whether I'm a mother, a wife, a lover, a friend, whatever. It is very important to have that commitment of doing what you believe that's important. And once you believe in it, then everything kind of falls into place. And then you get a nice team of women or friends and a support system, because the support system, you can learn from those who have been there, and you can learn from those who are going there, and you can hold each other's hand and pull each other forward. So I really think the fear factor for us as women and our culture, whether we are from all over the world, and in Austria, the famous thing I heard in 1994 was, das tut man nicht, which means you're not supposed to do that. And I didn't understand that. I would say, why not? And everybody thought I was crazy. So you have to also be a little bit crazy and not afraid to try.
Oh, that helps. That helps a lot.
A little crazy, right?
Oh, yeah, that helps.
Georgiana, were you told that as well, that you're not supposed to do that? I mean, you know...
Yes, there was a saying like even, the hens would be laughing at you now. Nevertheless, I was very lucky that my parents always thought I could do anything, and they had such high expectations of me, which was daunting in some way, but was really helpful because there were no limits. I knew I could become an engineer. I was actually encouraged in that sense. I knew I could do anything I wanted, so that helped. Nevertheless, if I look at what makes successful people, and if we think about any of the icons out there, female or male, you don't see them rolling their eyes. You don't see them rolling their eyes, and I think this is something that is critical. If we want to be successful, we need to do the things that we enjoy doing, and we need to enjoy the things that we're doing. So pursue something that you are passionate and that you care about, and then you are already one step closer to fulfilling your dream.
Exactly.
And secondly, whatever you do, there's always a good part, and try to focus on that. Don't focus on the things that you can't influence, because that brings frustration, and you don't want to act from an area of frustration. You want to act from an area of enthusiasm, of passion, and positivity. And every single task can bring you something if you look at it in that way. So I think that's actually crucial, because people want to be with people who are nice, who are smiling, who are friendly, and who charge you with positive energy. And once you do that, people will reach out to you, will want to be next to you. They're not going to send you out. They will before they actually get to know you. And this is something that, you know, when you are, let's say, at the junior level and you want to grow, many times you're frustrated because you're not given the opportunity to have a discussion, let's say, and you have, as you were saying, the door slammed in your face. But keep trying, and the moment you put your foot in, trust that with a positive and nice and constructive and helpful attitude, focus nevertheless on what you want to achieve, people will want more of you. Because not everybody is like that. That's actually a very scarce attitude.
And I also think if you're interested in a certain area of business, do your homework. Learn about who you're going to be talking to. Prep yourself, because you might find, and I don't know how you feel, but I sometimes find there's a common ground, and as crazy it sounds, it could be cooking. You'll find out that they're doing a certain charity or sports, and you find a common ground to begin an engaging conversation which creates alignment. And I think today, which is very critical, is finding your alignment in the right company, with the right people, with the right passion. And I totally agree with you. I much prefer to surround myself with positive people who want to go somewhere, because that actually empowers me to push harder for them and to do the most that I can for them, because I want to see their success.
Were you both always like that? When you were more junior, did you have any limiting beliefs that you had to overcome? And if so, how did you do that?
Well, my limiting belief is I thought, you have to imagine, I was pregnant at 17, so I felt that in order to be a successful woman, this is in the early 80s, so I'm aging myself. So Ciara, please don't write anything. But you got to think, in the 80s, at that time, in order to be in a successful company, you had to have an education. So I didn't even dare to think that I could qualify as a paralegal or to even engage myself. So I went to night school. And I actually took a second job selling cosmetics. And you too. See, there we go.
Door to door. I did door to door.
I did Mary Kay, so and I won the car. But the point is that it was a dream and a passion for me to educate myself. And you want to know what I realized when I got to Austria? I didn't need it. I got more skills from selling cosmetics because I had to learn how to manage different personalities. I had to learn how to manage different territories. Then I built a team of 20 women, and I had to learn how to manage talent because you've got alpha females, you've got all kinds of personalities. And I think sometimes I was more a mother to them than to my own daughters. But I learned then, and I can tell you, when I came here in 1994, I learned that everything that was in my mind about if you're higher education, it's good to have. However, if you have the drive and the ambition and you're willing to go out there and knock on doors like you did and I did, we already are one step ahead of the game. We're willing to knock and say, give me a chance, hear me out, let me try this. Oh, you'll look so much prettier with this lipstick. Those are just things that we did. And I think I held myself back by this preconceived notion, because my parents were also like yours. I can do anything I want to, be educated. My advantage is I'm an avid reader. So if I don't know something, I read about it and figure it out, or I find someone to explain it to me.
Mm-hmm. Is reading enough to overcome limiting beliefs? Nowadays we often have coaches or a community like we are, for example.
Whatever works. You do it? Whatever works.
Everybody's
and
different.
Whatever you have available. Because, it's not a life doesn't bring you what an hour can bring you. So I think it's just making the most of what's in front of you. I do agree that reading is vital. Reading on the tube, reading on the train, reading before you go to bed, looking up words that I don't understand, notions and so on. This always has helped me be informed and be confident, because at the end of the day, we each draw confidence from different things. And for me, it's knowledge.
And I would say, since I as an investor and she as a banker, one of the things is if I go into and say, dear Georgianne, she would say, hi, Linda. And I said, listen, I've got this amazing technology. I want to do, I'll put in up 50%. Will the bank give me credit for 50%? She's going to do her due diligence to see how much do I know about this technology and why I'm doing it. So of course, I may not know too much, but before I walk in there to a board of potential investors or to a bank, I will know everything backwards and forwards before I walk in, because it's a process of confidence, authenticity, but most importantly, I have to convince her to give me a couple of million if I want to. And this is critical. And I think, as she said, I'm reading all the time, whether it's women's issues, technology, new laws, anything that applies to my business, because I do work globally. You know that.
Yeah.
So, and you do too. So it's important, I think, to know. And also, I think one thing is to own your personal belief of who you are as a woman. You don't have to be like me. Just be you and be good at being you. And some people forget about that. They think, okay, I have to look like this. That's not it. You will convince me to invest if I'm confident that you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I call them chameleons. I'm sure you've met them, where you meet people that just kind of give you enough information to give you the illusion they know what you're doing. And those are the ones you have to be careful with, I think, is the chameleons. I think it's okay to change your focus or change, in the 80s it was changing your rainbow, or there was a famous book. But it's okay to change your career path, because I went completely from one exchange to the other. But you need to be authentic about who you are and comfortable in your own skin about making decisions. And you might fail. Oh, I can tell you, I've done some doozies, but at the end of the day, I've had more success because I learned from the failures.
Speaking of failures, what are some mistakes you made that you can share with us, and then the learnings you had from them?
I mean, I am here because of all the things that I have done. So I'm happy where I am, but I was happy where I was a year ago, and I was happy where I was 20 years ago. I was never unhappy with my role, because I don't believe that you need to be senior to be happy, or you need to be executive. I think it's about, as said before, you just need to find the peace and busy yourself with the things that give you excitement and happiness and fulfillment. So yeah, I've made probably hundreds of millions of mistakes, but my personal philosophy is that was meant to be like that. It's fine. It took me somewhere. I've learned something from it. It closed an opportunity, but it opened 10 others. And perhaps if I look back, my life could have been different, but I have no idea, right? We would never know what could be.
But is there one mistake that you can think of, especially when, walking up to executive level? Is there anything that you would share with the audience to not do?
I think I had this thing where I wasn't waking up early enough. So I would always snooze, and that would give me very little time to prepare. And I'm still a last-minute person. It's just who I am. And many times I walked into meetings with my dress a little bit unzipped, because I had a young son at home, and I was always getting dressed in the dark, and there was never enough time to go and look at myself in the mirror. And because of that, there were many times when my presentation wasn't downloaded on the iPad, or I know it's against what I'm saying. Nevertheless, I've now learned to accept it, wake up earlier for very important things, and for the rest, just laugh it off.
I would say some of the things for me that I learned, especially as I was getting ready to own a company. There was a time that we owned a company with 480 employees. One of the mistakes I made, and I want to share this because I think it's important, is business culture in different countries have different meanings and connotations. So I had to relearn culture, and though Austria is a big country, but the company that we owned was in Steiermark. Rules were done by our union leader, who was very important. And I made some faux pas with the CEO. Although we owned the company, we had a CEO who actually did not allow me to have the information I needed, and it had to do with a patent. So I had to learn to overcome these challenges, because it was natural with the legal background. Show me the patents, where did you register it, how was it done? Because we were losing money, because this company, unfortunately, was showing the Asian community how to do what we did best. And it was a very complicated issue. I think if I had the knowledge today, I would have probably have been more persuasive and friendly, instead of more like, why would you do something like that? So I had to learn how to control, let's say, facial expressions. I had to learn to control when I ask someone a question about an area that could be sensitive and they feel that their job is compromised. So I had to be very intuitive. So I say business culture, especially if you're working in Asia, the United States, Spain, Italy, Romania, we're all different, and everybody has different rules. Where we think in California, everybody wears jeans and it's okay to be légère. I'm a California girl myself, but I've lived here long enough that I will not go into a bank dressed in my jeans and my hair in a ponytail. I'll dress professional because I need to negotiate. So really learn your business culture of where you're going to do business, and be aware that if you're working with a colleague, which is another thing, there is no letter I in the word team. So there is no I am, it's a team. So if you're working in a team and you find out that one of the team is kind of hijacking and you're having uncomfortable things, I also made that mistake. Don't be confrontational, just ask, what was your approach? And out of curiosity, can you explain it to me? And sometimes you find that they didn't even see what they were doing, and you're able to solve a problem, and you actually keep a valuable team together. And I think that's also really important, is to keep a good team. Miscommunications, I've goofed up on investments on miscommunication. So I understand for the last 10 years or 15 years that I've been doing this, that it's very critical. Communication, good communication skills, transparency, and most importantly, to be honest enough with yourself to say, oh, I might have made a mistake, and to apologize and say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I really missed the boat on that one. Can you explain it to me? So I would highly recommend, humility is wonderful. Humility actually opens more doors than arrogance.
Humility rules.
Amen. I have to tell you, I would say that's the big, if you're honest and people will work with you. There are people that will cut you off, for sure. But you know what, you don't, as you said earlier, who wants to be around toxic people? I don't. There's better things to do. I'd rather hang out than have a drink somewhere.
It's interesting that you mentioned, communications and also being aware face-to-face on how to behave and your facial expressions maybe. What would you, both of you, say now in these times where we can't go network, where we don't have that face-to-face interaction, well, via screen, obviously, especially for women, working women who have children at home with home office, etc., and no time to network and go have face-to-face deals. How do you think is that gonna, affect the role of women, especially in the business world?
I think it's great.
Okay.
I think it's great. WebEx, Skype, listen, that's equality. All the windows on the screen are equal. Everybody can unmute. Everybody can mute. If you hosted a meeting, you can mute everyone. Can you do that in real life? No, you can't.
And then you can't, and then you always get someone that, I always call them a negative Nancy. Remember, friends, what a negative Nancy is. Those are the ones that disrupt the meeting and you can't finish what you wanted to achieve. So I wish I had a mute for negative Nancys. I agree with you 100%. I see, unfortunately, this situation actually forced us women to be more creative. I wrote about it recently. There are challenges, of course, of trying to cope with being home alone, cope with your kids and your partner, if daddy's there or not there, and you have to, I used to have a laundry basket where I put my youngest daughter, and as soon as she was asleep, I'd put it by my desk and I'd start working. This was in the old days when we had fax, but I was good for those 2 hours and tried to squeeze in. I think we women as managers, we're gonna make it happen. You pop something in the oven, you're ready. Pajama top goes off, business shirt goes on.
Exactly, it's perfect. I save time not commuting. I can wear my pajama bottoms and my slippers. I wear a t-shirt, but I put a nice scarf on, which goes off the moment the camera goes off. It's always on my desk. Put the scarf off, put the smile on, back on the screen. It's absolutely fantastic. My son is in the background. He knows to mute his stuff. I know to mute my stuff. I think it just works much easier. And as said, it's something I struggle with in board meetings, in executive meetings. I don't really like to interrupt. And that goes always in my disfavor because I start to say something, I hope it's interesting, and this is why people then start to complete my sentences, and then I don't take the word back. Virtual, absolutely fine, because
You're
it's
empowered.
really, yes, because it's difficult when you unmute yourself, but somebody's already speaking. Everybody's like, what are you doing? You're breaking like the virtual meeting rules. In physical meetings, this happens much more often.
And going back to what you said, there's that setup. I was just saying, going back to what you said, the virtual meeting rooms, we don't have that, which is completely, I find it more empowering. Now, I also find that women, for whatever reason, I don't know, I had a discussion recently about chatty catties versus negative Nancys, and we had all, and I said, why are there always women's names, you know? But
yeah, I was about to say, isn't it mostly men who are interrupting women in meetings?
no,
No?
I can't say
Really?
that. No, I can't say that.
Interesting.
I think
We are all the
same.
We are all the same.
I have
There's
to
good
say-
women and bad women, good man and bad man, structured, emotional. It's emotional, man. There's super bossy women. I mean,
I have to agree with her. I don't think so. I think the dynamics of today's new norm, we no longer need to go to offices. So that's scary for a lot of people. I do believe that you will have to be creative in order to survive this new norm. So it sounds kind of crazy, but I highly recommend for anyone that's going to do a career change, look up Skillshare or Udemy.com and find something that has nothing to do with your career and spend at least 1 hour a day learning a new craft or a new task or a new challenge, because you will find that when you go back to what you're thinking of, you're going to be clear-headed. Don't ask me why, but it's something changes in your creative processes of your brain. So I think if you're able to be a creative and to embrace that part of you, then at the same time, you're going to be a very good creative problem solver and empower your company or yourself in doing things that you never would have thought if you were working in the office last year.
Very good point. You know, before this event, I posted about this panel on my LinkedIn and asked if anyone had questions that we should definitely cover. And one of them was interesting because you mentioned now the virtual setting being actually in your favor. However, how do you then motivate employees? Have you noticed any differences now? How do you manage that?
I've noticed differences, and I can also speak for myself as an employee myself. I really embraced the lockdown because I'm somebody who loves change. I'm really weird like that. But after 7, 8 weeks, I started to become lonely, but I didn't realize it was loneliness. What I noticed is that I was waking up at night, which doesn't really happen to me, and I was thinking about work. So my self-confidence was decreasing.
That was normal.
And that's when I realized I need some positive affirmation. I need to know if I'm on the right track. And I asked my 2 bosses, am I doing fine? Can you please give me a pat on the back because I'm starting to struggle? And they were like, no, you're absolutely fantastic. We're so sorry. We didn't say anything. You're doing really well. So I got recharged. So motivation, we are responsible to ask for it, to create it, and to find it. And as managers or as entrepreneurs or as family members, the way we motivate our dear ones in a remote environment is the same way, by picking up the phone, by arranging that Skype call, by arranging that Teams call or Zoom or WebEx, and by speaking. And most of all, I've seen how it works for my team. If I do polls, and I use, for example, Slido, to answer their questions, but also to check how they are and to ask, how's your energy level? How is work-life balance going for you? What are your biggest challenges? What have your best learnings been? What do you want to take with you for the future? People like that. We all like it. I like it because I learn what's going on in their minds, and then I can support them better. And they see that there is interest, and they sometimes even learn things about their colleagues that they never realized.
But I also have to say, frankly speaking, what you're just talking about is a really positive work culture in your company. Unfortunately, and being here long enough, it isn't the norm in all companies. Unfortunately, it is, when I need information, because I am the CEO, I have to ask my interns, my partners, my business associates, what do you think? And I'm always talking to them because I do need it, so I agree with you. But not all companies have that business culture, and you want to know what my concern is more the fear of people being honest about what's going on because they're afraid of losing their jobs.
Yeah.
Especially now when most companies have to get rid of almost 30% of their workforce. This is why I think this platform is amazing, because it allows us as women, we're pre-planners, we're nurturers, we've got to figure it out, we've got to keep it going exactly. So this is a great opportunity to have a dialogue and start thinking, okay, what are my options if I get the axe? And it could be devastating, or you can say, you know what, I didn't like that job anyway, let me try something else. And this is why I think pre-planning is also a key component. Also having mentors. I had mentors throughout my life. That was really important to me and why I'm passionate about mentoring. I think this is also a good time to reach out and get mentors or ask someone to be a mentor or just have a cup of coffee and spin some ideas, because people are now more relaxed. There's more time, and you can have a Zoom call or WebEx and chat with each other. You know, if someone reaches out to me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or my other stuff, I do answer them. You know, I think it's important, and so I would also recommend that.
Or you can just apply through the Female Factor mentoring program.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. And that's actually, I have to say, that's the best way to catch me is through Female Factor.
Exactly.
The only way to catch me.
But it's so interesting that you both mentioned, you know, now this, I mean, it's kind of also imposter syndrome, what you talked about, and making yourself smaller. Even now, you know, you asked maybe your partners for feedback, you ask your the boss for feedback. It's so interesting because we thought only, you know, juniors have that.
No, you have it. I mean, some people have it, right? You can't really generalize, but I've been always having it, and I think it works in my favor because it makes me research more, it makes me prepare more, it allows me to be introspective and to have that thought process that then really pushes me forward. The disadvantage is that I struggle to celebrate. And sometimes, like when I got engaged, I wasn't really saying anything at work and people were noticing the ring and asking me. I kind of felt undeserving because I was on my second engagement and I was close to 40 and I had colleagues who never got engaged, and I felt really bad because I felt like I was rubbing it in their face. And
I think that's our culture. Well. I think it's a cultural thing because we're also taught, and really have to say it, we're taught, don't be too loud, don't brag too much, don't say that you've got a hot-looking husband or boyfriend, and don't you dare tell anybody how much money you earn or how much you're making or what successes you have, because if you do, nobody's going to like you. And that's something where I think women need to have the you don't have to say anything about what you make. Self-confidence is what you carry with yourself. I don't need to tell people what I have, but if I'm confident enough, knowledgeable enough. But I agree with you. I also had this sense of, oh, I shouldn't tell people I have 5 daughters and they have different dads, and you know, maybe it looks like I'm flighty or fickle and I won't be consistent, because that's how people would judge you in your personal life, so you don't talk about your personal life, and then you're very selective who you decide to share. And today, I really don't care, because at the end of the day, I think if someone can take a positive out of my journey that was challenging, then it was all worth it to me. It only has to be one person. If one person can say, oh, well, she was selling makeup and going to school and having all these kids, and look where she is today, then it's not a bad thing. Or if you can imagine being in the kitchen. I met a woman who was so amazing. She was in the kitchen in another country, and I walked in there. I was a guest there, and I said, what are you doing in the kitchen? Because she was there the whole time writing notes. She goes, oh, I'm going to write a cookbook. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. And I gave her my card and said, if you write your cookbook, would you be so kind and send it to me? You know what she did? And by the way, she was she got herself out of that kitchen who she was working with. So, you know, it's just a matter of just being confident and sharing and not being afraid. And it doesn't matter what station of life, what your cultural background is. It's more about engaging yourself with other women or other partners and communicating. I think it's really valuable.
You know what? I think it's fine to have it. And for me, this is my learning. I've turned 40 recently, and that's the thing that I'm now really trying to embrace for myself and to offer me this gift, to offer myself this gift. It's okay, I have it, and that's fine. And that's just who I am, and I just learned to live like that, accepting that it's fine, and maybe I don't even want to change this.
But see, you're comfortable with that, but some women are not some women are not comfortable. I mean, it wasn't comfortable for me. I love being a woman, and I also learned that in order for me to be where I am today, I knew that when I came to Austria, I couldn't officially get hired because I had 5 children, and I was 31. They were afraid to hire me because I would keep producing babies. And I would say, no, I wouldn't. So I was forced to become an entrepreneur. And I have to tell you, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, that rejection and being frustrated. But I also had to learn that in order to convince a company to believe in me, I also had to have a voice, and I had to change my way of thinking and not being humble and not too, you know, being in a board an environment, but have the self-confidence saying, of course I can bring an M&A transaction. Of course we can sell this product, or of course I believe in this. The one thing I didn't do is I never took a job if I didn't believe in it. That's the best advice I can give anyone. Never do something if you don't feel it here, or here. Otherwise, it won't work.
It's interesting that you both mentioned that confidence plays such an important role. Do you at 𝗠𝗎, when it comes to imposter syndrome, making yourself small, because you say you're okay with it, you know, it happens, and you sometimes just have that feeling. Do you not have any type of training how to overcome it? Do you offer that to your employees? Because, you know, they say you should be in a room with people who are smarter than you at work to advance in your career. So that might happen in an organization, especially if you start a new position.
Yeah, we have that, and I love training, and I'm a super training adept myself, and I'm constantly learning and certifying myself, and as said, researching and kind of furthering my background. Nevertheless, I am past the stage where I think women need to be trained. Nobody needs to be trained more than others. We all can also offer that ourselves this. It's not for the organization. It's not only for the organization to do it. We still have fantastic learning programs, but I think in the evolution of the diversity and inclusion roadmap, we are past the stage where we think that men are already fantastic and women, oh, let's give them training, they need to negotiate more, they need to be more confident, they need to present better, they need to network. Networking is key. I'm beyond that, yeah. This is fine. Some women and some men have these needs, but not everybody in the women category has the same need and needs to be trained to be equal to the others. It's just one of the offers. I think the biggest gift that we can offer as an organization or as a friend is to create the platform where people can express themselves and where it's okay. It's okay to have a small voice. It's okay to not speak much during meetings. It's for us to find a way to allow you to share what you have to share, to allow you to contribute, and also to get, in this case, the men to support you and to understand why this will work for everyone. Because women will not achieve anything on their own. We need to stick together. We need to support each other. But we need to support men, and we need them to support us as well. Because as one team, we will be so much happier and so much fulfilled.
I do agree with you that it's very important when we think about the female factor, but also to be inclusive with men as well. I think it's also important, what I would like to kind of touch on is that, you know, having children and your life is changing, and, you know, relationships are changing. Your husband is all of a sudden not the king of the house anymore because you've got a baby there, and we want to manage everything. I think that's the first experience of how to be a small corporate company. So, you know, there you've got to learn about gender diversity, management skills, and communication. But I also believe that you touched on the point, not everyone needs to be loud. But what I look for, you don't have to say a lot of words to me. I'm going to look at your work product. And that work product for me will speak louder than someone who's sitting here and is raising your, you know, at school there's always some, pick me, pick me. I don't need that. I need someone, I need work product, I need work ethics, integrity, communication, and I also need a creative mind for solutions, problem solving. Those 5 skills, wherever you are, ladies, in your station in life, with kids, no kids, changing, those 5 points will get you so far anywhere, because that is really, really key. You don't have to have a loud voice. You might have someone like her or like myself or like yourself who are creating these wonderful platforms, but just know wherever you are, whether it's a male-dominated environment or if it's female-dominated or whatever, mixed, culturally diverse, if you produce good work product and your work ethic, work integrity, you're going to go far.
Yeah.
And if you're respectful to your colleagues, you don't need a loud voice. That already speaks enough in your favor. And I would say when I engage when we engage partners or I'm working, those are the qualities I look for to make a decision if I'm going to co-invest, if I'm going to work with someone. If I have the feeling someone's not being honest or shady, I back off. I just say, okay, thank you so much, but I'm not the right candidate. And I think what we will see today, if I look forward, that's what I learned going backwards when I was younger. I always said, no one's going to pay attention with me. And it was a very wise woman that told me, you don't need to. You show them your work. Kick ass on your work.
Yes.
And that is whether it's a presentation, a PDF. You make sure you PDF it and you put your name on it and you send it out. No one's going to take that away from you. And that was the best advice I ever got. And
don't send any Word documents.
never.
No.
I learned that too because they
I send
prosecute.
Word documents and I
Really?
never put my name on any presentation. I
Yeah,
put the
but-
name of my department.
Yeah, but you work for corporate. I'm talking about I want to talk to the women who are trying to go into new companies and want to present to you and say, give me a chance. I'm going to.
Showing a different way to do it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's really important.
It's so interesting that you mentioned, though, that your family is the first little corporation you're
Oh, yeah.
managing.
Oh,
Georgiana, maybe you want to talk about how do you manage work-life balance now that you get up earlier?
Yes, do you know what? Work-life balance. I mean, at some point, I would like to go back to the role of companies in fostering and promoting women. But to answer your question specifically, I think that if I embrace a profession that I love, there's no need for work-life balance because I never finish work and I never finish my personal life. They blend.
Oh, good point. I like that.
I might be in a meeting, and by the way, virtual rules, I can immediately check, see what's happening with my husband, with my son, with my friends. Yeah, I bring my personal life into work as much as I bring my work into my personal life. On a Sunday night, I would review the documents for the supervisory board. I would inform myself. I would take some notes, mentally prepare for some meetings. So it kind of never finishes and starts. I don't believe in switching off my personal persona, leaving it at the door, going into the company, being somebody different, and then putting it back on when I go home. And I think this is one advice that I would give, especially to the younger generation. Just try to find a profession, an area of work that you love doing, because then you don't need work-life balance. It's not difficult to switch on and off. It's easy. It's who you are.
I'm going to age myself. If I put myself 10 years behind when I was your age and move forward a little bit, I found for me it was important to have a balance in the sense that I needed to meet with my girlfriends. I needed to have some sort of activity. That's why I mentioned Skillshare or Udemy.com. I needed to do something for me that I felt that was me.
Yeah.
Not my husband, not the 5 girls, but it was important that it gave me the sense of accomplishment, whether it was painting, whatever, yoga. But I think it's important for me as a woman or as a businesswoman, I do need, blending too much for me, it's not my personality. I do need to have separate times. So I get up, and it was hard, I get up early in the morning just to do the things I need to do for me before I make that cup of coffee for my husband and for myself. So it's just a preparation for me. Could be yoga, could be running, could be swimming.
Wonderful.
But I have to do that. I learned that by not doing that, my mind gets fuddled, kind of, you know. So I need that distance before I start the day. When I come home, because my business partner actually lives with me, I had to turn off that business because he would talk all the time. And I would say, listen, the moment I get into that kitchen and get that glass of wine, I'm not talking anymore about business. You can talk to me about how beautiful I am. You can talk to me about family. You can tell me you don't agree, but that is most important. And going back to the family, I've always told my daughters we were a woman's corporation. And that really hurt my husband's feelings, so I had to embrace that. We had to
Be inclusive.
We're an inclusive corporation.
Yeah, we had to. So we had to become inclusive, and I think it's. And what I will also say is that I encouraged my kids, even when they were little, with all my crazy stuff. They can all tell you they've stuffed envelopes, they've had to write things, help me with taxes, bookkeeping here, the girls. So we really did work and did the best. So I think it's important that you could blend it, but I do recommend find something you like to do, even if it's once a week, to go meet. I call up Modest and say, how are you doing? She's my mentor too.
Yeah. So unfortunately, time is already up, but I would love to also talk more about corporate inclusive programs because, yeah, you're very knowledgeable on that, 𝗺𝗲. However, I think we need to do that another time. Thank you both for being here. Thank you both for being mentors also to the Female Factor community. So please apply if you're interested. And now we're going to head into a cloud break. It's 10 minutes. And during these 10 minutes, you can go do speed dating in the networking area, or you can introduce yourself in the event community chat. I really encourage you to do that so we know who you are and you can engage with others. And also feel free to look at all the other participants. It's a lot of extraordinary women joining us today. So see you in the next session. Have fun during the cloud break. Thank you both again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.